concert for you today. I'm looking forward to it anyways. We've Naughton and Mikie O'Garman, two past music teachers of mine, and I'm very much looking forward to great afternoon music. So hope you enjoy.
There were three reels there. The first two are the Turnpike Gate and the level fence. They did would have been recorded by Frankie, Gavin and Alec Finn, among a lot of other people, and we learnt the last one from the Mulcahy family, who were only playing the other night. That's called The Thrush in the Storm. So we're going to drive on with 3 slides. The first 2 would be associated with Padraig O'Keefe, Lunchtime Frolics and Keown Gutta slide, and the last one is one we learned recently enough from Brian O'Leary. He got it off Mikie McAuliffe, and it's a tune he got from a fiddle player by the name of Jack Cahill from Knocknagoshel. So that comes from Mikie. So we give these 3 a go.
see there's a few critics down there, Mikey.
Your
grandfather's the notebook out below. Yeah, we're going to carry on, I suppose, with a hornpipe into a reel. We learned this hornpipe from Reed Harper and Tony O'Connell. They played in, it's on their CD, but they played in the, what's the place name? The Roundtree.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah. They do a great job of it. And the second tune, they were going to go into a reel, and you learned that at some stage.
I learned this. We don't actually have a name for the reel, so somebody might enlighten us maybe before the end of the concert. Yeah, but the first one's actually Charlie Linden tune, is a composition called the Abbey Tavern.
Good job.
Yeah, we're going to continue with 3 reels. The Road to Newbridge, or the Teetotaler, with a few twists in this from Padraig O'Keefe as well, his version of it. John Cronin's is the second reel, and the third one is an Ed Reevy composition, commonly enough played now. It's called Fisherman's Island.
Yeah.
you'd never have guessed.
So I was playing at CG Jeffreys. Actually got the bellows replacing it from Dipper in England about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And when they opened the bellows, there was a date, 1887, I think, was on the inside of it. So that's that. I'm changing over to, it's not quite as old. 2015, I think. It's a 7-mount. It's a B flat F. So it's a tone lower than a normal one. What do you play?
I just tuned mine down there. Actually, we're going to play a waltz. We're going to play 2 waltzes now. The second waltz we actually got off of Jackie Daly. It's called The New Land, composed by Kate Breton, fiddle player by the name of Otis Thomas. But actually, just a connection to Jackie Daly. That fiddle I have there was my great grandfather's. So he would have lived in Kanturk as well, on the same road, that Greenfield Road that Jackie Daly grew up on. So small connection between my fiddle and the second waltz here. The first waltz is one suppose we'd all know, kind of sing along to or hum along to. It's called The Old Claddagh Ring, and we put that with it because there's a Dave Dannon recording of this waltz before the 2 reels we played at the start, so kind of worked out nicely, we think, before it anyway, so I'll give these 2 a go.
gig in Friels in Biltown Malby over the Christmas, and Jackie, was it 1974? He won the button accordion competition in the All Ireland, and he said he'd go in again the next year, and he was being very innovative, and he designed a drone that he'd flick on for the reel for the last set. So he flicked on the drone anyway and played away the tune, and he was delighted with himself, and he came second. So Jackie was disgusted anyway. So a few weeks later he met the adjudicator, and she ran up to him and said, "Oh Jackie, you should have won that competition. It was a pity that button got stuck." Yeah, my button got stuck there.
There's actually another tune here that we're going to play a set of jigs. The Bluebells Are Blooming, a composition by Michael Dwyer. The Blue Angel, which Jackie would have recorded with buttons and bows as well. And I think the last one, we can just you picked it up in the session, you said it's called the Boys of Ballymote. We think Yeah, I'll introduce these. Sure. The first two are actually tunes I got from Maurice O'Keefe, fiddle player from Kishgame, County Park. Maurice, when I was younger, he used to be very good to us young fiddle players in the locality. He used to send us. He's kind of famous for actually sending tape recordings to any local fiddle players around of his tunes and things.
How far away was he?
From me?
Yeah.
He's only 5 minutes say from Borby.
Great.
Right from So he would have sent myself and Kate, my sister, actually was under. She got more tapes than me for some reason. I don't know. I think she was more promising. But
exchange.
On one of the tapes, these two tunes, the first two I learnt off his tapes. First one, he said on the tape is a composition of his own, which I don't doubt. There is another polka played kind of in the Slieve Lucre area with a similar first part but with a different second part. But I call this one Maurice O'Keefe's because he said on one of the tapes he gave us that he had composed it, and the second one is a tune called The Road to Ballydesmond. And the third one is one we actually learned recently enough as well. It came from a manuscript found in Dan Jeremiah O'Connor's house, I believe. Dan Jeremiah was a fiddle player from Scarty Glen, and when I was younger I would actually play in a couple of sessions with him. Not that he knew who I was, I'd say, or anything like that, but he was taught by Padre O'Keefe, so this is a tune, so we call it Dan Jeremiah's polka. So we get these three to go.
Yeah.
Am I starting the first one?
We might finish up with a set of reels. Thanks again to everyone for coming. Nice to see a few familiar faces, of course. We'll finish up with a set of reels. So For My Lasses is the first one. So where have we got that?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yellow Tinker and Miss Monaghan's. Do you have anything to say?
No, just thanks very much to everybody, and thanks to Fionn and all the society for having us. And best luck in South Africa and your trip and stuff. So, thanks very much again, and yeah, enjoy Valentine's and enjoy rugby. Happy Valentine's. Late and all that stuff. So it's all happening. Yeah, we give these a go. So. Again, 3, something. 3, 3, 3.